at this point. There might be, but there's no connection at this time. And would you be willing to help put it together? And he said, absolutely. And so we gathered B.J. Chakiris from Chicago, who's a colleague of ours, a long-term colleague of Gordon and Ronald, Eva Schindler-Raymond, and others in that whole area. And we met on the deck of my beach house on the Puget Sound, not too far from Pilgrim Firs. And in about 2 days, fundamentally designed the basis of this program. Now, this kind of transitions us over into who Gordon is, and how his characteristics. But I never forget this. I said, Gordon, what are the fundamental books in this field? He said, first of all, it's not, quote, a field. It's many fields. It's very, very broad. It's not one of those things that's really, really deep. And that got us into the whole stem and root approach of thinking about the educational process, which means that when you do this work, you see many stems out there. Like you're looking at a field of flowers, wildflowers. And if you want to go out and explore what's going on, you can go out there and you can pull one up and you can look at the roots. But you don't need to go real deep unless you really want to, because what we're all about is holism. There's so much, there's so many. And so I said, Gordon, what are all the books? He rattled off a 50-book bibliography from memory with annotated bibliography to go with it, you know. Blew me away. I'm sitting there trying to take notes. Jay's taking notes. We put this thing together, and I still have that original document of those books. I also found another document that is dated 1981, and it's called a prospectus, the International Institute for the Study of Systems Renewal, a nonprofit educational institution. This was at that time a division of Gordon's corporation, Organization Renewal Incorporated. Okay? And I was the manager of that division. Yeah, I mean, fully constituted. And the name of the program that these guys were in, the first program, was the Systems Renewal Consultation Program. It wasn't OSR. We didn't call it that. But that's what it was, because our focus was on systems renewal consultation. All right? And I have here in my hand the prospectus, the original prospectus of this thing. It's dated 1981. We didn't write it before we started the program. We wrote it after because we were learning, right? We didn't know what the heck we were doing. So we kind of got the thing started. But when I read this, I thought, my gosh, this was written almost 30 years ago, and a lot of it could be in the brochure today. It's not all that different. Now, you've made a lot of improvements and, you know, and renewed a lot of things for sure. But my gosh, it's really interesting. Bill, did you get a chance to look at this? I sent you a copy of it.
I think it's on my to-do list.
I thought I'd put you on the spot.
It would be fun to scan, if I can get it, a copy and scan it. And, you know, he has electronic.
I did send it to you.
Well, you have it?
Out of sight, out of mind.
Not like the days when you were enterprising. You had a little cloud.
Zip. I want to go back to the power of my own personality.
That's the difference between being retired.
So let me just read to you one paragraph, and then I'll turn it back to Mary, and we'll talk about Gordon and Mark. This says, Introduction, the field of social and technical systems renewal. And this was at the front end of this prospectus. The study of social and technical systems renewal is an emerging new field of educational inquiry and applied knowledge, seeks to focus learnings from several disciplines on the issue of how groups, organizations, and social systems function and interrelate, and how individuals in such settings can become more effective in their interpersonal and organizational roles as helpers and/or managers of change and renewal. The disciplines central to the development and academic base of the field are social psychology, management science, and applied sociology, with important collateral input from areas within business administration, public administration, political science, anthropology, and education.
Yes.
You certainly didn't write that. There are too many allergies.
Well, I still don't even know what epistemology is. I can't even spell it, I even pronounce it wrong.
Is there an E in front of that? Give it an E or?
You got it right. Flush it, man. Mary, let's talk about Gordon.
Well, let me just suggest that obviously they were brothers. Ron was the eldest, Gordon was the youngest. The middle, the brother was in economics and actually was did write quite a few books and was a professor of economics. It was interesting, it was a little bit difference in their demeanor, in my opinion. Gordon had training as a minister, and I thought had a wonderful ability to tell stories and be very humorous, and very humorous connections. Ron was one I would say was very observant and very engaged in building, in focusing in on the nonprofit and the community orientation. And Gordon's focus was a little bit more in the private sector, even though he started off in the ministry. And one of the things that I would say about both of them is they really liked to continue to learn, continue to integrate material. I think they were both outstanding synthesizers of information. One of the things that I was, one of my opportunities was I had a year as being president of my father's company organization, and that was a very interesting experience. My father was the chairman. We won't go there. But one of the things that I think Joelle mentioned, that my father had said that he was always 15 years ahead of his time. The last book he was working on, I'd just like to mention to you, it was called the Multocular Process. It was the multi-eyed, multiple ocular. And what he was talking about was the need to see situations from different points of view. And in particular, he was hoping for a community problem-solving approach from the different disciplines that Don just identified. And it was to be published, but he did pass before it was published. But when I take a look at what he was proposing at that point in time, I still think that was quite a bit ahead of his time. And Ron's last gloves in terms of his research was the ways that East and West could work together. And again, I think that was very insightful. A crystal ball, they had a better crystal ball than I did, let me put it that way. And so I will say that in preparation for this evening, I started to look through some of their old material, and one of the other pieces that I noticed about Ron's writing was how much he was committed to linkages. And some of you obviously know about the linking pin, but what he was suggesting was what we were lacking, and the reason we could not build community was because we did not have enough linkages. And I think that if we look at the world today, we probably could say that probably still is an accurate observation. So those are some of my takes. By the way, they were both, had some things in common. Both of them went to college at Springfield College, which by the way is the home of basketball. And they both went to school on scholarship that were both basketball scholarships.
Mary, how old were you when you started working for him?
I started working with my father when I was 7 years old. I started assembling training materials. At that point in time, the machines didn't do it for you, and we had them laid out in every room of the house, including the bathtub. I would start assembling training knives. I also had spent many summers at Bethel, Maine. I was involved in teenage tea groups. Charlie Seashore was one of the original founders and committed to having we were the ones that waited on the tables and we ran errands.